What are the top strategies to win in this seller's market in 2022? Stay tuned and find out. After 14 years of being a realtor, here are my top strategies to win in the seller's market of 2022. Hi, my name is Amy Brown. I'm a realtor with Long & Foster in Columbia, Maryland, and let's dive right in. We are still in a serious seller's market, regardless of what you're hearing on the news, because inventory is still incredibly low, and that has not budged much, just a hair, but not a lot. I want you to stay tuned to the end of this video for my #1 tip on getting your offer accepted. If you're a buyer right now in 2022, you're probably thinking you have to waive every single contingency and you need to give the seller 1 kidney and 2 of your children to get your offer accepted. You're worried that you're going to move in and find some serious issues with your home. Well, I'm here to tell you that it is possible to win in this market. In this market, sellers don't want to accept any contingencies, whether that's an appraisal contingency or a home inspection contingency. If the seller and the seller's agent agree, you might be able to do a pre-inspection on a home that you have serious interest in. This is also called a walk and talk. Now, not all sellers will agree to these pre-inspections, so you have to make sure that the agent you're working with gets the proper approvals to do that. Now, a walk and talk is not the same as a home inspection where you're there with the home inspector for 3 hours and you get a 50-page report with photos. This is different. This is where you identify to the home inspector your areas of concern and they will go over those with you. There is no written report. And this is done, again, before you submit an offer on a home. And depending on what you find in the walk and talk, you may decide not to submit an offer on the home. The downside, of course, is that the cost is $400 roughly for a walk and talk. So in this fast market, that can definitely add up. And with the tight listing deadlines and the offer deadlines, it may be not feasible to do a walk and talk. For example, my favorite few home inspectors do not work on the weekends, so you would never be able to hire them. The appraisal contingency is another contingency that sellers don't want to see. Cash is king, and that is especially true in this market where sellers are legitimately worried about the appraisal and how that's going to come out. If you are a buyer and you're competing against a cash offer, there's very little you can do. However, let's focus on what you can do. The best thing you can do to be competitive is to have 100% of your documentation to your loan officer and have that documentation fully through underwriting so that you are as close to cash as you can be while getting a mortgage. And if you feel comfortable doing so and you have the cash, you can add into your contract where you will waive the appraisal contingency. And what that means, I'll give you an example. If there's a house for $625,000 and you're the winning offer at $700,000 and you have waived the appraisal comes back at $625,000, you have committed up front to bringing $75,000 to extra to settlement. So that's what that would look like. There's another strategy, and that is where you just waive a bit. You do an appraisal gap. We have covered fully waiving the appraisal contingency, but there's another option. It's the appraisal gap addendum that you can add into your contract, where you say upfront, I will cover the difference between the appraised value and the offer price up to a certain amount. It could be $5,000, $10,000, $50,000, whatever that might be. That would cap your liability. So you're not fully waiving the appraisal contingency. So it's slightly less appealing to a seller, but it's still a powerful tool. If you're confident that the home will not appraise at the list price, another strategy you can use is to pay the seller's recordation, and transfer taxes. These are traditionally split evenly, 50-50 with the buyer and the seller, but not always in this market. Next up is the earnest money deposit. That's your good faith deposit that you write in when you submit the offer. In a normal, typical market, you would probably do 1% of the purchase price. If you're in a luxury market, it would probably be closer to 3% of the purchase price. In the seller's market, one tactic is to put as high of an EMD as you feel comfortable with, so the seller knows you're a serious buyer and your offer will stand out. Another strategy is making your EMD non-refundable. This is prevalent more in other major cities throughout the U.S. It's not as prevalent in Maryland. If you're a buyer and you make your EMD non-refundable and you breach that contract, the EMD automatically goes to the seller. Normally, both the buyer and the seller have to sign off on a release of the EMD, but not in this case. It would automatically go to the seller. So this has a very high risk, more so than other strategies that I'm mentioning. Escalation clauses. These are often used in Maryland. Think of this as when you purchase something off eBay. You are telling the seller the highest amount you're willing to go on the house, and then you put a cap. For instance, let's say it's a $600,000 house. Your initial offer could be $605 with an escalation to $650 in increments of $3,000 as an example. You have to focus on the cap, but also that factor, that $3,000 I mentioned. You are saying, I will beat the best written offer by $3,000 to my cap of $650. In some markets in Maryland, that cap can be $5,000 or $10,000 or even higher. It really depends on the market you're in. The closer you get to DC, the higher and larger that factor is. This escalation clause tactic definitely can benefit a buyer. Some sellers' agents don't allow them, so you'll need to find that out ahead of time. Rent backs and post-settlement occupancy. Sellers want to stay in their home for as long as possible. In the seller's market, they want to go to settlement, have the proceeds in their bank account, and then stay in their house for a while before they move on to their next home. You are allowed by your mortgage company to offer up to 60 days as a rent back, and you can offer that for free. In the past, when it wasn't a seller's market, the seller would pay the buyer's PITI, which is principal, interest, tax, and insurance. But in this market that we've had, we are seeing free rent backs. And let's say, for example, you settle on June 5th. Your first mortgage payment would be August 1st. So in that example, you would have some wiggle room regarding the rent back. In the past, you may have heard of buyer love letters. Unfortunately, those are becoming a thing of the past. These love letters have come under fire and scrutiny by fair housing laws. So it really is a risk to the seller to look at those. So most sellers' agents are putting in the agent remarks, love letters are not welcome. And here is my number one tip for how to get your offer accepted. It is relationships. And you're thinking, relationships, isn't it just about the highest offer? Yes and no. If there are two offers that are neck and neck and you are working with an agent and a local loan officer that have worked successfully in this market for years with other local agents, you will have a better chance of having your offer be the winning offer. I have had agents tell me at the end of transactions, time after time, that they look forward to working with me in the future. I just had a very busy listing agent say to me at the end of the transaction that it was the smoothest transaction he has had in years. Those relationships help my buyers succeed, and I cannot stress enough about the importance of relationships, especially in a seller's market. And allow me to add some legal verbiage. All of these tactics that I'm discussing have risks and benefits. So you need to make sure that you are comfortable making an aggressive offer. It's not for everyone. Again, you have to balance the risks and the reward. So I'm going to wrap up real quickly. Here you go. These are, if you want to have a real bang up offer, here's what you're going to have. No contingencies other than the mortgage, and you've waived the appraisal contingency if possible. You have no home inspection contingency. Your mortgage is fully through underwriting. You have a large EMD. You are paying the seller's portion of transfer and recordation taxes, and you are offering a free 60-day rent back. Whew, that's a lot of material. If you have specific questions, please don't hesitate to give me a call. I know that was a lot to go through, but I want you to know you can win in this market. Thank you for watching.